Acts chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak. All who heard them heard in their native language. When the time for Pentecost was fulfilled, they were all in one place together. And suddenly there came from the sky a noise like a strong driving wind, and it filled the entire house in which they were. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, which parted and came to rest on each one of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in different tongues, as the Spirit enabled them to proclaim. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven staying in Jerusalem. At this sound they gathered in a large crowd, but they were confused, because each one heard them speaking in his own language. They were astounded, and in amazement they asked, "Are not all these people who are speaking Galileans? Then how does each of us hear them in his own native language? We have Parthians, Medes, Elamites, inhabitants of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt, and the districts of Libya near Cyrene, as well as travelers from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabs. Yet we hear them speaking in our own tongues of the mighty acts of God." Pentecost means 50th and occurs 50 days after Easter Sunday's resurrection. The festival is first spoken of in Exodus 23:16 as the Feast of the Harvest. It is mentioned again in Exodus 34:22 as the Day of the First Fruits. This Jewish feast was celebrated 7 weeks after Passover and is sometimes called the Feast of Weeks. It was a time for all Jewish men to go to the temple sanctuary and give God a thank offering, a todah. The todah, a peace offering, was offered to God in recognition of, or in thanksgiving for, the blessings God had granted to the giver. In this particular case, the offerings given were from the first fruits, crops, or livestock, which God had allowed the giver to produce. The todah was known as a thank offering. The Greek word is Eucharistia, which for us is Eucharist, wherein an ordained priest offers a thanksgiving to God on behalf of the congregation. Leviticus chapter 7, verses 11 to 13. This is the ritual for the peace offerings that are presented to the Lord. When anyone makes a peace offering in thanksgiving, together with his thanksgiving sacrifice, he shall offer unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers spread with oil, and cakes made of fine flour mixed with oil and well kneaded. His offering shall also include loaves of leavened bread, along with the victim of his peace offering for thanksgiving. Pentecost was a time Jews associated with God giving Moses the law, the Torah, on Mount Sinai. Pentecost was one of 3 major yearly feasts celebrated by Jews: the Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles, about 4 months later. Jesus was crucified at Passover time. He ascended 40 days after the resurrection, a feast day known as the Ascension. On Pentecost, one of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit, blew new life, new courage into the hearts of men. The identification of Pentecost with the first fruits has real significance here, since the apostles spoke for the first time after the death and resurrection of Jesus, and 3,000 converted to Christianity on that day. We can say that they, the converts, constituted the first fruits of Christianity.